Okay, good evening. Welcome to the April 4th, 2023 meeting of the Finance Committee. We have a quorum present. Our agenda this evening, we have the school department here to talk about their IT budget. We have meeting minutes to approve. We have a reserve fund request for the Board of Selectmen Town Administrator's Office. We'll have a brief discussion about overall budget, but it should be a fairly quick meeting. So, thank you, John, and I'm sorry.
Andrew.
Andrew
Lamacchia, he's the IT director for the schools.
Welcome.
Lamacchia Realty?
So last week we had Superintendent Legault in while you were on vacation, John, and we went through and we just wanted to understand a little bit more about some of the IT cybersecurity related requests, and then maybe you could touch on the instructional software as well.
Sure. So there were a lot of questions that Dan, you sent to us, and I believe we tried to answer them the best we could. This first page is one of the pages, a copy of one of the pages I submitted to you, Dan. As I said all along, quotes, we get updated quotes and things like that, so things change with the budget, but it looks like some good news here. If you look down below, the off-site physical data storage, I think it was brought up when Superintendent Legault was here, was 1,500, not 15,000, and that's correct.
Okay.
The off-site cloud-based storage, which I had originally included a $40,000 amount, I received a quote. That is actually $27,674. In the EDR, the Sentinel-1 endpoint detection and response, I originally submitted a budget which included $28,946. That number is with that, I included the startup costs. We did that this year, so we wouldn't incur the startup costs next year. So I backed that out of those numbers. So that would reduce that to $23,346. So a reduction overall in that one line item, $31,426.
What is the EDR? The ED.
So each endpoint of a, say, like a teacher or faculty or staff member, EDR is basically if it detects some type of malware, some type of virus, or something else, it will alert us, and that will give us time to segregate that specific node device off the network and be able to address the situation before bringing it back so it doesn't affect anything else.
And the town is doing that this coming year as well?
So that reduces the budget $31,426. Of course, I have to present to the school committee to have them approve the reduced budget, but I feel pretty confident about that.
When Liz was here last week, she had mentioned, she thought, and again, she said this wasn't her area of expertise, that some of these were requirements from insurance. Are all of them part of the requirements from insurance?
I believe the EDR, the endpoint detection is.
Okay.
And also multi-factor authentication.
Can you explain the single sign-on, the class link?
Yeah, so that is a new product we're looking at, and Andrew could explain that.
Because I looked at the papers about it, and I wasn't getting there.
So basically, just the way technology works nowadays, right? So say something like the pandemic happened. It's the single sign-on allows teachers, and if students obviously weren't here, to be able to access any information that they needed, any of their work, whether it be a specific application, web app, software, or anything on our network itself. That single sign-on basically just brings them to like an interface where it has all those things, and rather than signing into each one individually, that one single sign-on will allow them to access everything.
In
Yeah,
the
the-
olden days, we used to have separate passwords and everything, and you forget them all the time, so it was so much better.
There's a significant amount of time. We have 3 IT people at the school. To manage that process without the single sign-on is so time-intensive that this will allow our staff to free up a significant amount of time a week to do other things. One of the things we just got approved for is the state cybersecurity grant. That's going to tie up one of the IT techs to manage that process. We have a significant amount, and I can share you some information. Other information. We have a program called GoGuardian, which is our management software for Chromebooks. This is just 1 week's activity at the school.
Thank you.
During that 1 week, we had 351,000 sites visited. So our GoGuardian software is also a filter management tool where we can go in and stop students from accessing different sites. Now, there's an overall filter. We filter out gambling, porn, things like that. But
Not
there are-
YouTube, huh? Not
Not
YouTube?
YouTube. Teachers use that a lot. But there are a lot of things that fall out of that overall filtering that the software provides that we need to manage individually. So if we see a student trying to access something they shouldn't be, we can go in and actually block that website. And you can see we've blocked, during that week, there were 1,206 blocked attempts and also 700 attempts of students to access things that are flagged by the system. So by obtaining the single sign-on and reducing the amount of time our staff has to manage that password process by just having one single password for students and staff, it's going to free up time to do the cybersecurity grant, and it's also going to free up time to manage this flagged activity, which I do sometimes. I mean, we spread it around during the office, but are we catching everything? Probably not. I mean, a lot of these flagged activities are they're not really, the students are doing something wrong. It's just, they may have accessed a Mayo Clinic website doing some research that had a bad word in it that pops up as a flag. So we wouldn't block that, but there are a lot of things that we spend a lot of time managing that GoGuardian software.
Is there any issue with how single sign-on works with the multi-factor authentication?
No, single sign-on actually has a built-in multi-factor authentication. We chose not to use that because we are looking at something called Cisco Duo
Yeah.
multi-factor, which is much more robust and
Use that.
Yeah, I do too.
They play nicely and.
yeah, and the Duo actually integrates with the single sign-on, the class link.
So this might have been explained, and I missed it somehow, but in the instructional software for the central, middle, and high school, why has it gone up so much?
It's not actually going up so much. I don't know if I brought a copy, but in what I sent you, I did. And what I had sent you was the account. No, I didn't bring it. It was the account description. So DESE changed the reporting on the end of year report for how you report, break out the school instructional software, computers and devices, administrative technology software. So they made a lot of line item changes to the definitions on how we need to report it. So this budget reflects the changes that we made in our accounting system to account for those changes.
So you,
So,
those went up and others went down?
nope. Well, those went up.
Yes, did you?
Overall, we went up about $120,000 in the budget, if you take into account those 5 different line items. So those expenses for central school instructional software could have been in line 499 or line 586. So what I attempted to do was explain to you, okay, we're going up 119,000. That 119,000 is related to the items that are below. The multi-factor, the single sign-on, the off-site physical data storage, the off-site cloud-based, and NDR.
So those, okay. So you get it?
Line
Yeah.
499, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I have worksheets that break out all the different, these line items. It's about 3 pages with all the different programs we have. I'm happy to share it with you.
One question on the off-site cloud-based storage. So we know, and we talked last week, and we know cybersecurity is important and data is important. And we're all in business and healthcare, and we get all that. Is this a necessity this year? With the town, with the backup there, the backup here, Ryan, I think the Ryan and the schools have the joint ARPA to backup in Taunton or wherever that's
Correct.
gonna be. If that goes through, could this be one that could potentially be pushed a year?
The one thing
I
we've
defer to, I'm not an IT guy.
Yeah, one thing we've seen and heard at all of our webinars, our meetings, anything to do with cybersecurity is backup. And Andrew can explain a little bit of the cloud-based.
So you're referring to Datto, I'm sure, as Ryan mentioned, Datto at all? All right, so basically it ends up just being an all-in-one solution, right? So not only will it be physical, it will also have the cloud as well, and they have data centers where our information would go for other off-site locations in Utah, Pennsylvania, Toronto, to name a few. And basically with Datto, this allows to have the minimal downtime as possible. Like, that's the whole point of it. But we would be able to spin up back in production quicker than having the offsite in the TMLP. So it's just another. And then experts in the field also say, like, it's always better to have more than one than two, right? And they're all using different solutions essentially in case what happens at TMLP, a natural disaster, right? In Toronto, it didn't happen. That natural disaster didn't happen. So now our backup is there. So we don't, have anything to worry about because it wasn't destroyed. And it's just, multiple things in this day and age, right? The digital risk, threats are evolving, people's reputations essentially at stake, and then with how much everything is used in the cloud these days, it becomes like necessitates, like needing multiple backups.
So the answer is it necessary? I believe it helps me sleep better at night. I don't want to go through what Whitman Hanson is still going through from the summer.
Weren't they backed up in the cloud, though?
It got hacked. So that's the other thing too, utilizing different solutions. So the TMLP essentially would use the built-in solution of the server we would get there. Synology, for an example, has a built-in, so we would use that. Right now, between the schools, we're using a product called Veeam. And then Datto it would be on-site at our school, but it's called the Cirrus, and that's utilizing the cloud and a physical. That's utilizing neither Veeam nor Synology's solution, which I forget the name of it this time. So that one gets hit, you have to.
We would have to get hacked in 3 different places,
Yeah.
essentially.
It allows you time to unplug everything and then spin right back up from our other locations.
I mean, I know it's all important. I mean, cybersecurity's changing every day, and unfortunately, the bad people out there spend more time trying to figure out how to do bad things than what we're able. We're just trying to figure out where we're gonna balance everything.
Now, what's in the cybersecurity grant doesn't cover any of that, right?
No, the cybersecurity grant is more for training and phishing.
Okay.
Training the staff on what to look for when opening emails, sending out phishing emails to see who actually falls for it, doing follow-up training.
I mean, everything's important to everybody. But I mean, we're gonna have a further discussion after this, is we're still short on the operating budget,
Right, we are.
you know, and there is a significant amount that we still need to find. So, I mean, I would ask that we make an assessment of what can we live another year without? Because if we already have a backup and another backup, do we need another one right away, or another one after that, or, I mean, and it could be this, it could be something else, okay? But it's just, I guess the way if I would put it is, this is not a year for overkill, all right? And,
Plymouth County assessment really hurt us this year.
Yeah, and I have my opinions about the Plymouth County assessment.
so, but,
Can, if we're done talking about cybersecurity, can I
Yeah.
bring up, I know there is a shortfall, so I wanted to share some additional information.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So on page 2, so there's a supplemental budget at the state. And in that supplemental, 2023 supplemental budget, on page 3, I've included a section of that budget. So it appears as though the state will be providing $75 million to schools. And I've read this, 15 times, and I still don't know how it's going to affect us, or will it affect us, but there's a large increase in the tuitions that we're paying out, and the state has recognized that, and the state has recognized the fact that schools may need help for that. And I believe this $75 million has been allocated in the supplemental budget for schools that are experiencing increases in special ed tuitions. We are one of those schools. I don't know how much,
Yeah.
but when we're talking about a budget shortfall, this may be one area, once we find out more information, that we may be able to reduce our budget for that.
that'd be great.
So I just want to bring that to your attention. And the other item on page, starting on page 4, I just printed out the first page. This was the governor's budget. And on page 6 in that governor's budget, there's a line item for almost $5.2 million. It's for non-resident pupil transportation. It says for reimbursements to cities and towns, for transportation of non-resident pupils to approve vocational technical programs. We have in our budget about $62,000 or $52,000 for transporting students to the agricultural schools. Honestly, I'm trying to get more information on this, if this is to help reimburse us for that expense. Last year in the state budget, the amount in this line item was $250,000. This year it's 5.2. That's a pretty large increase, so that's something, I'm hopeful I can come back to you guys and say, hey, they're gonna reimburse 90% of our transportation for the agricultural schools.
I have a question about just transportation in general for, I guess it's called school choice.
Yeah.
Is that related to this line item that you just said, or is this specific to agricultural
So,
schools?
school choice, we don't provide transportation for.
Okay. I thought there were some budget items in the last presentation for vans or some type of,
So those are for
Homeless,
the homeless transportation.
okay.
Homeless transportation for, and that, good segment into my next item I want to show. But yeah, homeless transportation, foster care transportation, we do pay for.
And that were mandated
Yes.
by the state.
State
so-
mandate.
And is there any limitation? I think Liz had mentioned we had to pay for someone to come from Fall River or somewhere that was kind of far. Like,
Yep.
are there any parameters on where we have to pay to
I
transport?
don't know the actual regulations on that, if there's a certain length of time or
That falls under, I think what you're saying, most likely was a homeless transportation that was going on, right? If, from Fall River, that would be, or was someone in that situation?
right. I don't know off the top of my head what the regulations are, but I can certainly ask our sped department about that.
Thank you.
But I did want to talk about homeless
All right,
transportation.
go ahead.
It's almost like I set you up. I just wanted to share some information on the last page. In fiscal year 2020, we had a homeless transportation cost of $44,596. We received reimbursement for that of $31,268. So we received 70% of that reimbursement. So we actually received that in fiscal year '22. All right,
You say we received it, did it come into the town?
comes into the town. In fiscal year '21, we had homeless transportation of $21,267. The town, received $21,267, or 100% of that reimbursement. So we received the fiscal year '21 reimbursement in fiscal year '22. In fiscal year '22, I filed the end-of-year report for homeless transportation of $54,866. We should be receiving 100% of that, $54,866, sometime around June of this year, so fiscal year '23. Now, in fiscal year '23, this year, I'm projecting homeless transportation at $173,000. That $123,000 should be reimbursed at 100%, and you should be receiving that in fiscal year '24.
Did you include that in revenues already?
We did, yeah, so that 170 was included, and we increased local receipts.
That's
In
great.
the budget. And I think I don't know that we did 63,000 for foster care, but we bumped it.
Yeah, foster
Yeah,
care,
I think
I don't know what the percentage for foster care reimbursement is. And based upon the 2021 cost report, they reimburse like 17%.
Okay.
So Dave, all those reimbursements in prior years would have been part of our free cash number, because it wouldn't have been something that we
Oh, okay, prior years, okay.
planned for.
Yeah, we talked, yeah, that was a good change that we made this year. Okay.
So I guess the point is, I want to get across is we're looking.
No, you guys, I mean,
Grants, we're hopeful that there's going to be more grants coming out that are new grants for mental health and things like that. So, tomorrow we could get information that we could reduce the budget more.
I know.
Well, let us know right away.
You will be the first to know.
Any, I know Liz said she's always talking with, our state reps and state senators. On the bill filed on the 17th of March, any insight from them on when that might be acted upon, or yes or no, or?
I believe
I didn't read the whole thing if it's in there,
I
right?
believe that one was voted upon.
The 75 million?
I believe that the supplemental budget for 2023, again, I've been away for 5 days,
Yeah.
so I believe that was voted upon and approved by the state.
Oh, okay. Charlie, do you know by chance?
I thought they just approved the supplemental budget, yes.
They did?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, the governor signed it a couple days ago.
all right. What that equates to for us.
Right, and I don't know what a timeline for that, something like that usually is? Do you have any idea?
I don't.
Yeah, sign, article in Mass Municipal Association, March 29th, so it's included a number of other things, hybrid meetings and everything like that, too.
Okay, well, that's good news. Any other questions for John and Drew?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you both for your time. Okay, next, so we don't forget, let's do meeting minutes.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, thank you.
It's supposed to say March 29th. Looks like that's the second
Let's see.
page, we just say Tuesday, but
Let's see, all right, so we have,
Yep, that's all it is.
so I think it's probably fine.
Oh, we have the reserve funds.
We have the reserve fund, yeah, we'll do that after. So we have 4 sets of minutes. We have the meeting minutes from February 15th, February 21st, February 28th, and March 29th. I would entertain a motion to,
I make a motion to approve.
We should amend it for the second page to say Wednesday, March 29th also, because that's a continuation.
okay, so at the top of the second page of the March 29th meeting minutes,
Oh,
it
good
just
catch.
carried over from the previous month, so that needs to read
That's
March 29th.
So I'd make a motion to amend the minutes.
Okay, motion by Dave to amend second page of the March 29th meeting minutes to reflect the correct date.
Second.
Second by Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Now we have a motion on the table still to approve the minutes.
we do. Motion on the table by Lisa to approve the meeting minutes of February 15th, February 21st, February 28th, and March 29th. And is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, that is approved. Find those and turn those in. Next, we have a reserve fund request. It is for $4,000, submitted by Charlie, Town Administrator. It's for the cost of legal ads in the enterprise. We're in the process of holding multiple public hearings pursuant to determine if it's in the public's best interest to accept roads as a public way. Each ad is $300. So this is part of what the selectmen have been working on. This goes back to town meeting maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So it's an unbudgeted expense. This is what the reserve fund is for. Any questions?
Have we spent anything out of the reserve fund yet?
Not to my knowledge.
No, that was the lift.
The
at
lift,
DPW,
yep.
that was this
Oh, yeah.
year, I think.
That was the only
I
thing
feel
that
like there was maybe one other small one.
there was one we were going to do and then we didn't because it was too early into the year.
I feel like there was one after the lift, but I can't.
We're not close to the,
I think some
No.
training equipment, either for the police or fire, and then they were gonna take it out of another budget,
I think so, yeah.
something like that.
But no, there's plenty of.
There's plenty in the reserve fund.
That's not something we hear in East Bridgewater a lot. There's plenty, don't worry.
So if there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the transfer from the reserve fund
Okay.
of $4,000 for legal ads in the enterprise.
Okay, motion by Dave,
Seconded.
Karen.
second by Karen. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I have the,
Present and voting for.
we have 3 of them here we gotta sign.
Oh, you're gonna sign those?
Yeah.
Okay.
those down. So we are good with that. No, this is too many copies of the same thing. You already got one from the last meeting, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is for Karen.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll let those get signed, so Karen doesn't have to do 3 things at once. We are all signed on those, so then our last item to talk about tonight is just the status of where we're at in the budget. When we met last week, we had a deficit. We're a week later, we still have a deficit, it's a little bit better. Now, mind you, the deficit that's in the budget that we just handed out does not include the costs of contract negotiations. So there's still the clerical, the fire department.
Well, patrol officers, which I don't expect. I think the only ones that I think are gonna be possible are gonna be the fire department.
Clerical, which is already
Well, the
done.
clerical, because that got settled. Patrol officers were just starting, and it's gonna take a while. The dispatchers just knocked on the door, in a sense, electronically yesterday. So there's just.
No way it's
there's
gonna
no
happen.
chance, yeah.
And then, non-union, like with the wage and personnel, that should be probably.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to the board a little bit individually already. Just need to get a consensus from them. My hope is Monday. we'll have
Monday though,
something.
okay. And clerical, if that is retro to 20, it's 23
So
and
it'll be
go.
articles for the fiscal 23 amount and then non-article for, well, not article, but inside the special town meeting, there'll be an article for contracts, also fiscal 24, there'll be an article for contracts, and clerical will be in both.
Okay,
And the fiscal, so say clerical, I'm making this number up, is 30,000 for fiscal 23, then it's say 60,000 for fiscal 24 because the increase is on
yep,
the new
doubles.
rate, because we've kept it at the 22 rate straight through.
okay.
And the numbers we have there does not include what John just talked about us
And I
tonight.
just did that.
It does
so
not include the reduction, right?
243,450.
So we're at a deficit of $243,450. So over the course of the next week, we will continue to refine this and see where Melanie's done. Thank you, Melanie, an amazing job going through every revenue category to make sure that we've accurately reflected revenue. That was something we committed to doing this year, so that there wasn't this huge bubble of free cash at the end of the year. That's not the right way to budget. So we've looked at everything from health insurance to meals tax to excise tax, and I mean, everything's been looked at. So we feel like this is truly right size. The reimbursement, like we just talked about for homeless transportation.
Paid reimbursement, I think we've under budgeted that in the last couple of years, we looked at that.
Yep.
Dan, what was that number? 240?
243,450, correct?
So we enacted that meals tax here, right?
That was 2 or 3 years ago.
Do you know, what are we getting for revenue from that?
Is it 150 or something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's over 100, but,
Well, because we were only forecasting out at the time when we did it,
50,000 is something.
25 to 50,000.
Right.
No, it's been great. I mean, it's what's been, we've been bumping up our OPEB, contribution by 5,000 each year, with then a little bit left to help towards the operating budget, so.
Right. So it's all good. So we'll continue, to see what's, available, what our options are. And then the hope is to come back to this committee with a revised budget and then the options for balancing the budget. For us to make a recommendation then to go to the selectmen.
Every day that I open my email, I just hope that there's something new from the state that's just gonna solve all our problems.
I know.
Not yet.
Well, maybe the magical $75 million will solve it. We'll see. But,
Great.
so not a huge update, but that's where we're at. We've whittled it down. Like we mentioned tonight, the ARP, I think we mentioned, I was in a meeting before this, so I don't remember which meeting.
Mentioned it here.
The selectmen did vote to move forward with the ARPA article that the schools submitted for the 600,000, 300,000 in each of the next fiscal years for social and emotional wellness and adjustment counselors. So that's already out of this number because we knew that was approved. So, any questions?
Do we know what our timeline is, the next couple of weeks, the next?
I want to get through the end of the week to see what we find out, and then we'll have a better clue at the beginning of next week, I think. So I don't want to set a meeting tonight because I don't want to.
Okay.
That makes sense.
ARP is meeting next week on Tuesday, so we'll figure out our next meeting
Sweet.
date. Any other questions or feedback?
Are we still on schedule for the annual town meeting?
We will be. We don't have a choice.
From the two guys who are not gonna be here.
We will make sure everything's all buttoned.
Well, I do want to say, conversations with the board indicated that they're thinking along the lines of, maybe we're closer now than we were a few hours ago, but they're thinking of, we'll hold the meeting on May 8th, get the non-budget work done, and then continue to June 5th.
For the budget.
Right, I don't think, I'm not aware of anything that would bring us going south. I think there are things that incrementally we may get improvements. At this point, when we're talking we're down to the point of $10,000 is helpful, let's put it that way. So we'll have the House and Senate budgets before June 5th, as an example. So I think they would want to make sure, give more time to you all and give more time to the departments to make sure that everybody's on board, that we don't end up with a fight at town meeting.
I think it's helpful for the contracts that are still up in the air, like.
To what, to move it out till like June 5th
Yeah,
or
so,
something?
fire has more of a chance
I
to
agree with you
settle and give us
100%.
a number, and I don't think there's anything negative about moving.
No, I don't think there's anything negative about moving either, and because there are so many unknowns with, the state's revising their budget and local aid that they're gonna provide all the time. I'd rather have a full understanding of the picture before we make hasty decisions.
And we may have the contracts resolved by then. We'll have some answers. That could be a big nut.
But I think the board's intention is to do the non-budget stuff at the very least, simply because we've been telling all the residents on those streets that we're in the process of accepting town meeting May 8th, town meeting May 8th. No matter what we do, we will fail
not
to
gonna
get the word out to some of them. They'll show up and we'll say, go home. And say, wait a minute, I showed up for this, you told me.
Right.
So,
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Good idea.
good plan.
When will they be voting on that next Monday?
I think they'll discuss it,
Discuss.
there's no vote necessary. We have
From
to
them,
have a
okay.
meeting on the 8th. I think they'll have a discussion about communicating more to you all and everybody else that here's what the board's intentions are, which are, we'll see where we are on Monday, but to move the budget section to the 5th of June. We
And
can't,
that would include the capital articles?
I don't think they were thinking along those lines. I think I can talk with them on Monday and see if they want to also delay
The
that.
only
Because it's gonna be
reason-
connected, because
Yes.
how much free cash we have available then determines what we can do for capital, and how much free cash we have available is partially dependent on the operating budget, so.
Right,
Yeah, I would think that that makes sense.
yeah.
Okay. That sounds like a really good plan to me.
I agree.
The amount of uncertainty that we could have with the contracts, hearing that there's $75 million allocated, we don't know what we're gonna get, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not gonna hurt anything.
no, we still get it done in plenty of time for fiscal year end.
Right.
And I'll be here on June 5th.
That's all right, I'm just kidding.
Me too.
Never mind.
And Dave won't be too right. So,
Right.
okay, good news. Any other questions or discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second the motion?
I'll
You have to make
motion.
He made it, so Dave,
Oh.
Lisa, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.